There is no reason that you should be stuck on anything. The things that we're working on, that we'll start working on today is when we start doing proofs completely on our own. And for most of the time, when that works like that, you'll only be doing maybe one, maybe two steps at most on your own. So, when we start going through these things, remember, the first thing you always do is go through your givens. Well, it's given. Notice what they did right away is they marked the diagram. Hey, that's the other thing that you're supposed to do. They went to the next given. They wrote it down. When you have a midpoint, it cuts it into two congruent segments. What do you do to your diagram?
Mark it.
Oh, that's right, you mark it. So that means these two are the same because of, what did we just use? Following the progression sheet that you have in your hand. Why is it congruent to itself? Yes, sir. Flexible. And what do you have? Exactly. Did you guys put on your progression sheets the 5 ways to show that triangles are congruent?
Yeah.
I think we did. Okay. I want to make sure you have that on there. Okay. The only thing, quite literally the only thing you had to kind of find out on your own was reflexive. Everything else is right off the sheet. Same deal with the other ones. Hey, look, it's a bow tie looking picture. Gee, what does that mean you're probably going to have?
Congruent angles.
Congruent angles, those vertical angles. Once again, it's a matter of marking the diagrams so that way you're able to tell which method they wind up being congruent. Here's your given. Those two are the same. Oh, I did the wrong ones. Those two are the same. Gee, I marked it, which means I need to write down what they were. Oh, that's right. A, B, D, E. Well, that was easy. The next one. Given again. Hey, look at that. Those two are all set up again. Using the definitions. Where's our vertical angles? Oh, I don't know, maybe the ones they're telling me to look at. Mark it. Now, on your progression sheet, in order to show that vertical angles are congruent, your reason was vertical angles congruent. That's it. According to the diagram, what do you have then?
Side angle.
There it is. That's it. Very, very, very straightforward. Excuse me. And then last but not least, there is a nice trick when you have parallel. It's a nice trick that when you have parallel, one of the things that you can do is this. We know that we have the parallel lines. They're parallel here and here. Well, follow it to make that Z or backward Z or however it winds up being drawn, because now you know which ones connect to the transversal. You know that those two would have to be the same because those are alternate interior angles. I'm just getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but go through the process. Given ABC, DCB. Hey, alternate interior angles. So what do you write down? According, what do you have to make that ugly symbol though, right? Did you make the symbol?
Yeah.
Good. You have to have this on there. They're not corresponding, they're alternate interior. Okay?
Wait.
Yes, ma'am.
It doesn't. You know how it has like the weird sign for the angle?
Yeah.
You don't have to like put that instead of what we use.
No. Anything that I give you that's fill in the blank, I never use this weird symbol. Mine will always look like that, so don't worry about it. Did you use the weird sign symbol? That's fine. It's no big deal. You're being very literal with it, and that's perfectly fine. It's actually more correct than what I did, so. All right. The other part was the other given. Now, if you were looking at what you have in your diagrams, you have a side and an angle, which means you have to find an angle before the side or a side after the angle. What do you have? You have the side. There you are. Flows right through. Pretty much every single one of these is going to have, well, since you have to come up with something on your own more often than not, it's either going to be like a vertical angle setup or a reflexive side. Everything else comes right off the progression. Okay? Yeah, I just can't get rid of this cough. It kept me up late. I just kept coughing. So let's do another proof. All right, let's look at this. Take out the notes. Let's do one. What does it look like? How does it change when you have to do everything on your own? It really doesn't change much. Let's try this. I yell, but I do not. Good to see you. So, ladies and gentlemen, not, come on. What we've got this week is, between today and tomorrow, we're basically finishing out, writing out our proofs for triangles. On Wednesday, we do a little bit of work with isosceles and equilateral triangles. That does not take very long. After that, we start putting it all back together so that we can test out and be done with this come Friday. Next week, with the 2-day week, one of the things I'm looking at doing is starting with the very simple stuff of mid-segments. And then on Tuesday, we'll probably do a lot of constructions again, because it works really well to be able to construct a mid-segment, be able to construct angle bisectors and all this kind of stuff out of triangles. So we'll probably do that as a day of constructions on Tuesday before the 5-day weekend. I know that if I attempt to give you homework over a 5-day weekend, the likelihood of that being accomplished is slim to none.
Yeah, good game.
So let's take a look at how it works itself through when you have to make a proof on your own. When you're doing proofs on your own, what you have to have next to you to be successful is your
progression sheet.
So when we have our progression sheet out in front of us, the very first thing that you're given you've got your perpendicular. According to your sheet,
It says line right.
right. According to your sheet, it tells you to do two things now. First thing you're going to do is state the right angles that are formed. The second thing then is to say that those right angles are congruent. So if I'm looking at BD and AC being perpendicular, where are the right angles that are being formed? Well, I'm looking at my diagram and I'm going to say, probably here and here. Pretty obvious. So I just have to say that those two angles now are right angles, because that's what the sheet tells you to do. That's why it's great. And remember, the reason there was the definition of being perpendicular. The second step out of that was to now say that those two angles were congruent. Because, what does your sheet say? What does the sheet say? It's right in front of you. Be good to be looking at it. Gonna go out on a limb.
All right angles are good.
Exactly. Okay. You have now fully used up that first given. So what do you do next? You go to the second one. Exactly, go to the next one. I believe it said D bisects AC. There's another given. Now, what does a segment bisector do? Exactly. So what do you think? What does your sheet tell you to say? State the two segments that are congruent that are formed. Segment bisectors cut segments into two congruent segments. Angle bisectors cut two angles, or cut an angle into two congruent angles. Here it's a segment, so you can't call it an angle bisector. So we just say that AD and CD are the same. Those first 5 steps, you didn't even need to think about. All you had to be able to do was find them on your sheet. Seriously. Everything's on there. I have blank ones in the back in case yours is really messy or it's gotten, destroyed or whatnot. Or if you want to help prepare for the test, and on Friday, one of the best things you can do is just kind of rewrite it. Not only when you rewrite it, it helps you remember where, it actually really, the main reason is it helps you remember where you put things, where certain setups are, where are angles at, where are the segment parts at. Just, you'll probably find it a little bit quicker. But also to help you remember that eventually you won't even need it. I mean, you have a perpendicular, you have right angles and you know they're congruent. You should be able to figure that out by now. So, you go back and you look at your diagram. You've got a side and you have an angle. What do you have left to find? Another angle or another side? What do you have? Where? What is it? Reflection. Very good. So quite literally, again, the only thing you had to come up with on your own is the reflexive side, that shared side. But on your progression sheet, you have a reminder of it. Look for it. You found it. And that was BD. How are your triangles congruent then? Side and side. Very good. You're done. Even though it's a right triangle, doesn't mean that it's going to always have to be hypotenuse like. Nope. Remember, it doesn't have to be. So your two triangles then are congruent. Sorry, I'm just being lazy.
It's all right, I forgive you.
Thanks. It means a lot. Our triangles are now congruent because of done. See how fast this is now? All that work, all that complaining, everything you guys hated for the past month. What's that?
She said she still hates it.
No, it's okay. It got you to the point of really only having to do one step. 1.5 if you want to count marking your diagrams, figure out what these methods is. But other than that, every single bit of information is on your progression sheet. Everything is there for you to be able to figure out. And that's what's nice about it. Okay? Let's try one more. See how well I can draw this. That's not bad.
Let me see.
Look at that. Excuse me. So we have angles S and V are right angles, and T is a midpoint of SV. And we want to show that the two triangles wind up being congruent. Wait, what? Don't worry, after this one I'll give you a sheet that has them already drawn out. What's that? It's crooked. Well,
Yeah, I know mine is too. That's why I said.
you okay?
Are you?
Can't get rid of this cough. Guess what else happened? What's that?
You went camping.
I don't like tea. I've never liked tea.
You like milk, sugar, and
You should get some right.
That's too much.
No,
Sorry, I voted on the wrong.
the only tea that I ever really liked was that Lipton Brisk canned iced tea.
Oh, and this is just sugar?
Yeah, that's pretty much all it is. That one's not bad. Yeah, it's like a pop. I mean, it's not bad. But
I like taking, this is powder, and you put it in milk.
yeah,
It's like a chocolate powder. And you put it
you know,
in milk.
I don't know. I've tried tea. I've tried a bunch of different teas. Yes, ma'am. Who? I can't hear you. Tea-bonnet? No.
It's good. Try it. I don't like tea. That tea.
So where do you start with the proofs? The given. All right. So when you start your given here, let me move this just so we see. Oh, you're on my right.
Good one.
Yeah.
All right. So we have our given. So what do we do then?
Mark it.
Mark it. That's right. I was just harassing you guys. Put the right angles in. We know that these are right angles. Now, on your progression sheet, what do you know about right angles? They're congruent. So now I'm going to say that angle is congruent to angle V because all right angles congruent. Is there anything else that I can now state about S and V?
Nope.
No. Go to the next. T is a midpoint. So if T is a midpoint, what does it create? Two congruent segments. So if I go to the diagram, T is the midpoint of SV, that means this one and this one is the same.
Yes.
So I write it down.
That's T.
And I'm following my sheet.
That's the midpoint.
So now you have an angle and a side. We need to find another side or another angle. What do we have? We have vertical angles. So we have the vertical angles, very good. You guys notice that right here and here. So we just have to write it down. STR. Now, if I started at the right angle here, went to T to R, what should I write for the other one to make sure it matches up? And on your progression sheet, what's the reason you put for when you have vertical angles? What does it say to write?
Yeah.
Vertical angles congruent. That's all I gotta write. Vert, angle, congruent. That's what it should say. If it doesn't say that, make sure it says that. Double check it. Bless you. And now, excuse me, do we have everything? Yeah, what do you have?
We have to write what key is, and then we have to write like.
Okay, you're right, but I should have said it as, do we have enough information to say that they're proved?
Yes.
That's what I'm getting at. Do I have, what do I have then for the triangles? Angle, side angle. Yep. So again, if you go back and look at what we just did here, what's the only thing you hadn't figured out on your own? The part after they give it. No. The vertical angles. Seriously, guys, if you don't have the information in front of you about what's with progression, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Everything is there for you. There is no reason to not have that information. So if you don't have the sheet, you've lost the sheet. You don't know where your stuff is. Your stuff is super messy because you can't read it. Once again, there are plenty of them back here. Please help yourself and rewrite it. It doesn't hurt any. Okay? Yeah.
I think it's an hour.
That's from Mercy.
Yes, sir.
I told my parents there's no ass. And my mom knew what I was talking about, but my dad.
That's cool.
Yeah, they want 71.
I still think it's like the funnest. It's like the best day in math when you can say there's no ass in math. This is cool. So, let's look at what we have here. Yo! I don't have it open. Alright, so what I'd like you guys to do is take a couple of minutes, and I want to do the first one. Now, one of the things I want you guys to see is that this worksheet is been around since well before I started working here. So it's been around for at least 10, 11 years, okay? But has geometry or math really changed a whole lot? No. So here's what other thing I want to show you is that on this sheet, throughout all of it, they have all of these lines. Do you need to use all of them? No. Do you have to use more than what's there sometimes? Sure. But it's one of those things that it's not that big of a deal. And I just did not have time to just white it all out. So what I want you guys to do is use your progression sheet. Go back and forth between the progression sheet and your diagram and write it out. This is an exercise in making sure you have the information on there. You've got perpendicular and you have an angle bisector. Follow your progression, see where it leads, and take about 5. It shouldn't take 3 minutes technically to do this, and we'll check it. All right? Yeah. Again, you start with what you're given. When you have perpendicular, go right to your part on your sheet. It tells you right angles that are formed. Write it down. Angle ABC and angle DBC are right angles. Why are they right angles? Because of the definition of parallel. Okay?
Then next, I made ABC and congruent to DC.
Right.
All right angles.
Good. Now that they're right angles, we know that they're congruent to one another.
All right angles are congruent.
Then we can go to our next given, right?
Correct.
Okay, I thought you said part wrong.
So now you've used all of that, so you go to your next given. BC is the angle bisector of C.
And then AD equals DB.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
No, it's AC.
Angle bisector.
Says
Definition of
AC.
angle.
Angle bisector
Oh, yes, it'd be.
is an angle bisector of angle C, which means that those two angles are the same. You mark the diagram. Follow the letters. A, C, B.
DCD.
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 Definition.
Of angle bisector.
There it is. So right now you've got two angles, which means you have to find a side in between them or a side after them. What side do you have? You have the reflexive BC. It's shared between the two. What do you have according to the diagram now? Angle, side, angle.
Hey,
Angle, side, angle.
I only got one part. Bisector, but I don't have.
So, looking at this, guys, what's that?
Never mind.
Oh, I spelled reflexive there. If you look back at this problem, or at this proof, you really only had to come up with one thing on your own. The only thing you had to come up with was the reflexive side. Everything else is written down on your progression sheet. Everything else is right there. It's a matter of finding it and following the letters. You cannot make up stuff. You cannot just miraculously say that the AC and DC are the same. It doesn't say that anywhere. You can't assume that. Otherwise that whole angle side comes back. It does not talk about AB and BD at all. Can't say anything about those. So that's where this is going. So on the rest of these things, I do need you guys to change a couple of things on here. If you look at the second proof is talking about parallels. It asks you to prove the two triangles, and then it says, then these two parts. Lightly just cross this part out for right now. We'll talk about what that means tomorrow. So for on number 2, on your sheet, I'd like you to do this. Hopefully it worked. Just do this lightly so that way you don't worry about it for right now. Okay?
Is that CDA?
Yeah, it's ABC and CDA. Number 3, I need you to change it to this. Again, just write it out, clean it out, write it out. Just cross it out lightly for right now, and we'll do triangle A, B, is it A, B? ABC, ADC.
Wait,
You were asking?
we didn't write anything when we crossed out this one.
No, just cross it off for right now, because if you look at right before it talks about the triangles, there's a new step I'm going to show you tomorrow why that happens. It's quite literally one extra step, and that's it. And it's the same reason every time. It's very, very easy. Okay? So do that for this one. Flip it over. Same thing. Cross out where it's talking about the bisector part. And do, again, same triangle. ABC, and then ADC. We'll talk about, yes sir. Yeah, I'm going to use the same 2 triangles for all of them, just so it keeps it the same. And I'll show you guys how to do that other step tomorrow. And then I think the 5th one's fine. The last one also, again, change it to ABC, ADC, okay? It was nice that the letters don't change, so if we just set every one of them to be ADC, ADC, you're gonna be fine. Quite literally on this stuff, guys, these 5 proofs, everything is on your progression sheet. It is quite literally copy and paste, okay? You might have to come up with one extra step in each one of them. That's it. Mark your diagrams, you're gonna be fine, okay? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, sir. Excuse me. I don't feel like just taking rid of this cough. Yeah, you're telling me? Kept me up all night too. I couldn't stop coughing.